I want to say that I am back to regular podcasting episodes, but that would be a lie. And quite frankly, I'm just leaning into my ADHD creativity moments, and when they're not there, I'm not forcing them. And if you are a creative person or even think, then you could probably relate. However, I am dropping an episode. This one is really interesting. They're all interesting according to me. And with this one, it's because we're talking attachment styles, and I've never spoken to anybody so far where we've talked about that. What is your attachment style, and how does it affect how you view your relationships and the relationships you get into? I know for me, I probably could put myself in the anxious, avoidant, probably still massively avoidant. But what do you put yourself in? Have a listen to this conversation, and does it resonate with you? As always, any questions, comments, or feedback, I'm all ears. Just keep it kind. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having a conversation with me. Yeah, and we'll go straight into the usual. So, name, sexual orientation, and relationship status, please.
Laura, single and straight.
I think you're the quickest person ever to answer that question. Literally, that was like
very
Laura.
Direct.
Yeah, Laura, single, straight. Next question. Like, that's impressive.
Up.
I love that. We have a mutual friend, and she said, "You need to talk to this person. You are traveling around the world, I guess, for work."
Yeah, for work.
Yeah, and so you've been all over the place. Now, I feel like we're going to be talking about some other stuff, but you're dating in different countries.
Mm-hmm.
I just went to a country where I didn't know how to cope with the fact that they didn't get sarcasm. So what's it like to have to navigate other cultures in dating? Because I imagine dating in England is a far cry from even where you're at. What country are you in at the moment?
I'm in Canada at the moment.
Canada. So maybe it's kind of the same, but probably not.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's kind of the subtle differences are huge when you're living them. But I'm from Manchester originally, and then moved down to London when I was about 24, 25. And to be honest, that was like a cultural shift as well. Like,
really?
London's so different to the rest of the UK. I felt like that was a really big move. And then when I was in my late 20s, I moved to Hong Kong. So that is quite different, obviously. Very, very culturally different. Yeah, my late 20s, that's when I moved to Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
And obviously, culturally, yeah, that is such a different place. And that I loved that. I found that so exciting.
Yeah.
However, within that, there's such tight-knit expat groups. So to be honest, you find yourself hanging around with a lot of English people. Mm-hmm. Being from England, you're naturally drawn to them, etc. And then my next move was actually to Australia. And I actually found that one of my more challenging moves, because in my head, I thought it was just going to be like home. But there are subtle differences, and you feel them more when you've got the expectation it's going to be just like home. Mm. And then my most recent move is to Canada, which I literally came here for the job. I'd never had it on my radar to move here. Mm. But yeah, it's been a nice surprise moving here. But yeah, I did not know what to expect.
I do find that surprising that Manchester to London was quite a culture shock anyway.
Yeah, 100%. I think, I mean, while I was in Manchester, I was mostly living back at home at my parents in the suburbs. Like, it's such a different vibe.
Okay.
I kind of knew quite early on after finishing uni that I wanted to move away, try something bigger, whatever it was. I didn't really know. So I never really pushed to kind of live on my own in Manchester. I just kind of thought, well, it's free rent, I'll stay here.
Obviously.
So I was probably feeling quite sheltered and quite bored, yeah.
Yeah, so hang on. Oh, yeah, okay, so I'm getting that total vibe of like rebellion. You're living with your parents. Can you actually date while you're with your
curiosity?
With your parents?
Do you know what? I just wasn't that bothered in Manchester because I knew I wasn't going to stay there.
Really?
And it wasn't that often that I like met people I clicked with there in terms of dating. And I just kind of my head was in London, which was the place I decided I wanted to move.
Yeah.
Like I was just focusing on how can I get there. Like I remember I had a design role because that's what I do. I'm a designer, but it's really bad pay, like it is when you start out in fashion design.
Yeah.
And I even took a job waitressing in the evenings because I was like, it's extra money I can save to get down to London quicker.
Wow.
And that's not saying that I didn't want to be there. Like it's a great city, Manchester, especially now. Like it's growing so much. I just wanted adventure and I just wanted to try new things. And I couldn't fight that feeling, really.
Does dating fit into your kind of adventure? Because I know that for some people, like they want to get out, big wide world and do all these things. But does like has someone else ever, like when you started that, fit into that equation? Or was it that you were so driven to just get out, go to London, do all these things, that actually that was not part of it?
I've never really thought that. I've always thought and hoped that I'd meet someone who has the same kind of attitude. And although I do move around a lot, I am somewhere in each place for a good couple of years. I always joke that I get the 3.5 year itch.
Okay.
And that's usually when I start planning the next location and just getting that feeling to move on. But as well, like, I think dating, you don't have to always assume it has to be long term. Like there's, you know, you can have fun, or it could be a year-long relationship that can still be really meaningful and deep. And I think it's just not having those high and really grounded expectations and just seeing what happens.
Yeah, which is different to some of the people that I've spoken to who are like, they're in it to find that kind of really long-term thing.
Yeah, I think that's the common collective, isn't it? That's what we're expected to do as well.
Yeah.
I think that's how I grew up thinking that's what I should look for.
Yeah.
And I, you know, if I was looking for that predominantly, maybe I would have had a slightly different lifestyle.
Have you come up against anybody that has, like even your parents, who is kind of, because it's outside of what is considered normal, like relationship practice, like has anybody kind of frowned upon it or said anything to you that's a bit like, hang on a minute?
Yeah, oh my god, all the time.
Really?
Like, weirdly, I'm 30. Yeah. I'm 37 now, and weirdly, I get it less now. And I think society's really shifting. They're being a bit more open-minded. Obviously, as millennials, we've like changed the mold a little bit. And I think that's exciting. Like people can be more true to themselves. But yeah, I felt it more in my 20s.
Yeah.
I felt a real shame of being single and not have achieved other certain goals, like, oh, you're nearly 30 and you've not had a kid, or you've not bought a house. There was a lot of that in society. And it is shifting. And I think that's really, really positive.
Yeah. And so what was that like? Because was that from just like people, older people, you know, when that joke that you see in relation, you know, felt like rom-coms and stuff like that, and the aunt or something is all like, oh, when are you settling down?
Yeah.
When are you having your babies? And
like in Bridget Jones.
Yes. Like is that where it came from, was like the older generation rather than people your age?
I'd actually say both.
Yeah.
I think the fear that some of my peers carried of being single, or they were almost challenged by my just, what's the word, like not ability to roll with a different path, but I was going with it, whether it was easy or not. I could get challenged, definitely. To be honest, I probably felt it more from people my age, because I think the older generation, you can just go, yeah, whatever. Like, they're a completely different generation. They don't get it. But yeah, I noticed my choices can make, and still I can see it. It can make people uncomfortable. They question it a lot.
Do you think because I see that with drinking, like when I tell people that I don't drink, they kind of some people get a little bit funny about it. Do you think it's because they think you're judging them?
It could be that, yeah. I think it's a part of that, and I think it makes them also question, well, I followed the path and I'm doing, what I wanted to do and what I should be doing. Why is this person not? And I had those thoughts as well. Like, I remember thinking in my 20s, why am I different? Why am I taking this path? Why don't I want to get married at this age? Because I remember people, in my 20s, starting to have long-term relationships and talk about marriage and stuff, mid-20s, and my head just wasn't even there. There's no right or wrong at all. But I just remember feeling that, like, but I haven't even done this yet. I've not moved to London. I've not took a gap year. I've not really started my career. Maybe it just took me a bit longer to come out of that sort of like younger state. And I don't know, like, there's still a list of things I want to do. And it doesn't mean I can't do them with someone.
It's funny because I imagine, well, no, when it comes to that, the fact that you're living that way, that's your choice. You're not like here for that kind of like marriage, 2 kids, picket fence, dog, walking the dog on the weekends, all that kind of jazz right now. And you haven't been because you've got you're like, move out my way, I've got other plans. But have the guys been on board with that you've dated? Because you're like, listen up. I'm assuming you're like, listen up, like, I'm here, but I'm only going to be here for a couple of years. So that's how we're playing it. Or do you just literally you don't kind of give that heads up, or how does that work?
I don't give that heads up because I'm always open to like thinking that who knows what could happen.
Yeah.
Like, I could change my mind and, I could meet someone tomorrow and decide I want to stay in Canada permanently. And I'm always open to those things. I think that's exciting. But I do think a big part of my journey has been that when I was dating in my 20s, I was highly anxiously attached. And I only learned about attachment styles later, probably in my early 30s.
Yeah.
So an old housemate bought me the book Attached. I think she'd seen me dating. She's like, God, this girl needs this book.
I've read that too. Yeah, carry on.
So it's like, I just want to give it to my 24-year-old self. And I think it should be given out. It's just, it's amazing. So that was a real game changer for me. And I obviously, like, for anyone listening, not knowing the book, it's about 3 attachment styles, secure, avoidant, and anxious. I was reading it and I was like, oh my God, I am like 110% anxious. Yeah. And I could see the patterns and I understood everything so much more clearly. It just made me realize I was highly anxious for most of my 20s and I was chasing after highly avoidant guys. So obviously, it was a messy combo. And after reading it, and then also I was living in Sydney at the time, talking to my therapist about it, we also really deep dived into it, and she was like, you are highly anxious, but you can also be a combination of these two these patterns. And she's like, there's definitely some avoidant in you as well. So we talked through that, and that was really interesting.
Wow. So looking back, reading the book, you're like, oh, I was chasing the avoidance. But you couldn't see it. So, But what did that look like to you at the time that you were chasing the avoidance? What did that look like to you? Because I know that for some women, they always get into these relationships with guys because they're like, oh, they need a little bit of polishing. I can fix them. Was that what you were looking for, or did it look different for you?
it was just like this horrible chase.
Yeah.
Like, I'd try and play it cool, but inside I was just like an anxious mess, because the more, the avoiding characters, the more you show any sort of emotion, they shift away. And they'll do a bit of breadcrumbing as well.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like now I would not even tolerate that for like 2 seconds. But that's because I've done the work now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just felt very like messy and endless. And I mean, there was exciting bits to it, of course.
Yeah.
And in my 20s, I was mostly in London. And like at the end of my 20s, I moved to Hong Kong. They are both two very fun places to date. Maybe if you're looking for commitment, they're probably not always the places, especially Hong Kong. But yeah, fun. And I'm, definitely had some exciting times. So yeah, it's a good reflection, definitely. Now I've done the learning.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was tiring, and it made me feel like, oh, why does dating go so smoothly for some people, and why am I in this chaos? I think that's how it felt.
And so anybody that's listening that is like, this is starting to sound a little bit familiar. Avoidant types, what are they? What are we looking at here? For a boyfriend or even a girlfriend that's an avoidant type, that kind of sounds a little bit like me in some respects. What does that look like? What are we looking for here? What are the red flags that we should be like, listen, sweetheart, this guy is not for you?
I think overall it's like they avoid any solid, concrete commitment. But, day to day, it'll be like, they might take 3 hours to text back. They might be vague about making plans, that kind of thing. Yeah. Very wish-washy. And I've always had it in my head that, if a guy likes you, you know about it. It's, you don't even have to think twice about it. But with an avoidant, you'll be like questioning it for days. And if that's the case, just save yourself the drama. Just, read the book, move on, go to therapy.
Love that. Save yourself. That does sound very typical of quite a lot of stories I've heard with, people getting on the old dating apps and stuff like that. Is there that whole like, haven't heard from him in 24 hours and I messaged him, or like he messaged me, so I messaged back, and now he wanted an answer and I've given it to him, and now I don't hear from him for ages. And it's definitely an avoidant thing. But being anxious, then, is it that you want them to want you and they're not, so you try to fit the mold so that they will?
Yeah, pretty much. You get addicted to the highs and the lows of it. You're seeking out that drama almost.
Yeah.
And you translate those highs into being like a connection.
Yeah.
And not really. It's just your roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
And obviously those kind of situations, they can be quite passionate as well. So there's that side of it too. So it's addictive. And until you either recognize what's going on, which I didn't, or someone calls it out, you're kind of going to get stuck in it until you do some growth. But obviously there is the secure attachment style as well. So that's just, very healthy, grounded relationships. And if you're in that, you're winning. That is the goal, to be securely attached. And you can shift styles at any point.
Yeah. I mean, they're becoming, well, I mean, it's not exactly something you're going to put on your dating profile, is it? Like the personality test. Yes, so I've done a personality test and I'm anxious avoidant. Come see me. But if you don't mind, and we can obviously not go into this, but what made you the anxious type?
Yeah, so I'm not really sure, to be honest, but there is further reading you can do around it. And like in the book, it does mention it's about your very first connections as a baby, and like it could be like one situation where your needs weren't met, and that can trigger this sort of like behavior. So I don't know, to be honest, but there's another book that speaks really well about it, How to Do the Work by Nicole LaPerla. And I read those two books really close together. And it was really interesting.
So basically, if you're going to read attachment and you actually want to do something about it, there's more work to be done after you've read Attachment. Yeah,
I think you'll want to.
Yeah. I have that book by Nicole.
You'll just have a million questions.
Yeah. I have that book by Nicole, but I haven't actually read it. It's just sat there on a pile of books that I keep buying and saying I will read. And then
it's great.
That book all those things just keep getting higher and higher. And so is this something though as well? Because let's face it, when we all read like self-help books or we listen to a podcast that's about like improvement and growth and stuff like this, you read the books and stuff like that, you're not automatically, I won't say cured, but you're not automatically just, great, know what I'm doing now. This is awesome. I'm going to start dating and it's going to be great. Do you find yourself sometimes falling into those anxious, avoidant ways, or is it?
No, I don't actually now, but I think it's two things. I think reading that book and going to see a therapist at the same time and talking about it literally sounds cheesy, but it literally changed my life. Like I could just see everything so clearly. I also think at this age, I'm 37, I just can't be arsed with the bullshit. So that those two things combined, I've got a very low tolerance now. So if I am getting bullshit off some avoidant, I'll either just rein it in or call it out. I'm much happier spending time on my own than putting up with that kind of thing right now. It feels really empowering. It feels in a good place. Yeah. It took me years to get there. Yeah. But it's great. Yeah. It's great that I'm here.
I love that. And I think that what it is though is, when you listen to something and you're like, yes, oh my God, this is it. I need to do this. I need to read this book. But then actually it's kind of like managing expectations about the fact that there's actual work you've got to put some actual work into it to explore yourself and then explore it and then put it into practice. And it sounds like...
Yeah, definitely. And dating can it's not easy. So you can... There's a lot of opportunities where you could fall back into old patterns.
Yeah.
But I think awareness, once you've got the awareness of what's going on, it's very empowering.
Yeah. And so what does that, so we say about red flags, the texting back, all of those kind of things, but what are the green flags? What are we looking at here? We want to be a healthy attachment style. How do we see that? What are the things that we see or what are the things that you've seen in potential dates that are like green flags? How do we spot them?
Do you know what I think the number one thing for me is someone who has got their own thing going on. Mm-hmm. They've got their own lifestyle. They've got maybe passionate about their career. They've got their hobbies, that kind of thing. That's a huge green flag for me. Mm. They have created a life that they really like and they're good on their own. They're not dating because they need to be with someone. Mm. That's like when I sense that, I'm just like, no, it's very unattractive.
Yeah.
Because they're not dating, they're not trying to date you because they like you. Sometimes you get that feeling they just want to be with anyone.
Yeah.
So that's the number one green flag, that they've got their own things going on and they've got a level of independence. And then another green flag, which I think is really important, would be just healthy communication. Like, it's not hard, is it, to send a text message? Who sends those these days? An SMS or a WhatsApp, whatever. But just think that shows a level of maturity.
Yeah. And I have yet to do the dating thing after the 4 years of therapy and the psychedelics and the this and the that to improve my awareness. And also, work out that bit of a dickhead myself in the relationships. It wasn't all of their fault. Great. It's always nice to admit that. So I've yet to do that bit. Were you dating as you were doing the work?
Do you know what? When I was doing the work, I was in Australia. I was in Sydney.
Okay.
And it was during the pandemic. Ooh. So it was during the lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was just actually the perfect situation to do all this. So Australia is amazing for mental health, people talking about it, being open about it. I actually got my sessions completely free through a referral from the GP.
Oh, wow.
It was an amazing therapist. People talk about the books they're reading. People work on development a lot. And plus, it's a very healthy lifestyle out there as well. So everyone's active, they're outdoors, they eat really clean. So it just felt like a really, really good time in my life to focus on it in terms of doing the work. But obviously with the situation of the lockdown, etc., dating was a little bit different. So I was on one of the apps, but I wasn't like really concentrating on it. But what was nice is I live by the beach in Sydney, and a lot of the dates would just be grabbing a coffee and going for a walk along the beach. And I thought that was really, really nice. It was a very sort of safe space and nice time to do the two at the same time, like work on yourself and sort of date at the same time.
I suppose it's hard dating during the pandemic. I know that each country had their own ways of dealing with it, and I'm not sure how Sydney dealt with it. So I think did you like kind of lock down some areas and keep some areas open?
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. We were very lucky in Sydney in 2020. We only had a 6-week lockdown and that was it. But then 21 came and there was a much longer one. At one point, we had a 5-kilometre radius and that went on for a really long time. But living by the beach, that made that, you could keep going. You felt good. You'd see the ocean every day. So basically, it kind of made your dating very, very local. I was living near Bondi and it's very expat. Like there was a lot of mix of people, interesting people to meet, loads of locals as well. It's a great place to meet all kinds of people.
Yeah, I can imagine it is. Did you ever, I have to ask this, did you ever date an Englishman while being in Sydney? Because I feel like that's like, it's a little bit maybe offensive, but I'm going to say it anyway. But it feels like if you go to another country and you end up dating someone from the same country as you, it's almost like going on holiday and eating a McDonald's. It's the same everywhere you go.
Yeah. You want to try the culture.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah. I didn't actually. I think in Hong Kong, I definitely did. Definitely dated some English guys there. And then I think Hong Kong is such a melting pot of different cultures and expat communities and things. I definitely kind of realized maybe my tastes were a little bit different. And I actually moved away from dating English guys. Not that I'm against it at all. I do really like the English banter.
Yeah.
The English banter is definitely something I miss. But I was kind of more drawn to like European guys, maybe like French or Spanish, Italian. And then when I was living in Bondi, there was quite a lot of Italians that lived there and South Americans. So I kind of ended up having a long-term relationship in Sydney, and it was with a guy from Chile in the end. So yeah, quite a different mix. And I did go on a couple of dates with Australians as well. But it's just, again, it's nice to let go and just see what happens. Like no expectations, no like, oh, I must end up with an English person or I must end up with an Australian person. Just see. And I think that's the joy of dating, really, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, did you eat the McDonald's or did you go local? What happened there? But then, yeah, that's the thing. I was in Helsinki not long ago, and you couldn't help but notice a large Asian population, which I wasn't prepared for. I was absolutely prepared for just lots of fit, white, blonde people. Yeah. Just the weirdest thing. And I wasn't expecting that. So, of course, if you're living somewhere like that, the chances of dating someone that's not Finnish or whatever is quite high. But vanity stuff, where was the best dating? Which country had the best dates? Best guys?
In terms of fun? Or... I think if you go with the expectation that you're not going to get any level of commitment, Hong Kong, it's fun because like everyone out there has been brought out there for a reason, usually their career. There's lots of bankers, pilots, lawyers. You're going to get taken on some exciting dates.
Yeah, okay.
It's wild though. It's don't expect maybe too much from them, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. And like, you know, very intelligent people as well out there, very ambitious, and that's, you know, that's highly attractive.
I can, yeah, that, now you said that, that kind of makes a lot of sense, that would be the place where you're gonna, what's the most kind of fun, adventurous date that you've been on? Looking for some ideas.
Yeah, I'm going to set the bar really high. This isn't me. This is a friend that I had in Hong Kong, another English girl, and she met a guy out there. He was a bit of an expat baby, as in his parents had been expats, so he'd been all over working and living. I think he was a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure it was like their 4th or 5th date, and he took her to Tokyo, and they stayed in the Ritz. So that's setting the bar out there. That's what we want.
Cool. Wow.
But yeah, I always remember that. I was like, wow, you don't get that in Manchester.
No, you really don't. And probably not in London either, right?
No. No.
But
not in Vancouver either.
I absolutely will not be taking that kind of a thing to heart and being like, shit, man, I need to date and take this person away because, quite frankly, I've got cats to feed and a low income. But wow, that's insane. And so are you dating in Vancouver at the moment?
Yeah, a little bit, very casually.
Yeah.
I found dating in Vancouver a little dull, if I'm honest.
Oof. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to say maybe it's because it's like winter right now. People are sort of hibernating at home. But yeah, I don't know. I found maybe I'm used to more forward and direct guys. But I am noticing a massive difference between Canadian guys and American guys, maybe. American guys seem to be the ones that are more forward and will come over and speak to you and that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, I forget about the fact that America is right there. Yeah.
I always like, from not traveling this continent very much before I came here, I always just grouped it in my head as one place. It's not. Like, they're so different. Canada and America and the people there, very, very different. And even learning how the accent's so different and everything like that, really interesting.
It's just popped into my head because, again, thinking about the whole attachment stuff, I don't think we've really I've spoken about it with many people before, and I do find it a really interesting thing. And I know it's kind of had its kind of buzzword heyday and still kind of there for people to think about. But since you kind of identified that your attachment style and how to kind of, you know, turn that on its head and become more was it? There's anxious, avoidant, and
secure.
Secure. There we go. I was like confident because that's a thing. And, you know, coming into your kind of like secure attachment style, have you noticed a difference in how men behave with you because of the fact that you're laying down your boundaries and things? I know you're not probably going into it going, right, these are my boundaries, bang, 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 bang. But when the situation arises, you're like, nah, I'm not putting up with this. Have you found that your dating pool has become maybe a little bit smaller?
Yeah, 100%.
No, I was hoping you'd be like, no, it's amazing.
Yeah,
everybody's on the same wavelength.
No, it is smaller, but I'd rather that than be in a bigger pool dealing with all that kind of crap. So I think it makes it harder. Like sometimes I feel like I'm in no man's land because I am still attracted to a lot of those avoidant type males. But I'm not willing to put up with the shit. So I'm just in this sort of grey area where I'm like, oh, is there even anyone in this grey area or is that just me?
Yeah.
So it's a funny one. And which is why I'm probably just like very open and very kind of, let's see what dating brings. It doesn't have to be anything serious at this point, just looking for healthy relationships, really.
And are you quite confident in being able to say after a date, because I know this probably happens with quite a few people, you know, the whole situation where it just seems like absolutely normal now for people to ghost people at any point. Are you quite comfortable in being like, yeah, I had a great time, but no, I'm good, thanks?
You're right. It's become part of culture and I really don't like it. It's just like a breakdown in just general good communication. And you wouldn't do it to a friend. So why would you do it to someone that you've spent time with? I try not to ghost. I only ghost someone if they get weird. And people get weird. So then I do occasionally.
I love that.
But no, I think you can always give someone.
Yeah.
They do. I think you can always give someone some feedback that, you know, you can. They're owed it. You've spent time with them. Yeah, I don't feel good if I ghost. So, yeah. I think at this age, most people take it well anyway. And if they don't, then you've dodged a real bullet.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about you? How do you feel about ghosting?
I am not a fan of it because I just don't really understand it. But I've actually seen it just kind of like spread into friendships and things like that, and into working relationships as well. That this just, that's okay to do. It's just weird.
Such a low standard, isn't it?
Yeah. And the thing is if they're ghosting you, I know for some people it's because they're really uncomfortable with giving feedback and conflict. And so I get that for some people it's not because they're being nasty, but it's because they are so uncomfortable and just cannot. Like they're so anxious about doing that they'd rather just not do anything at all, which is shit, really, at the end of the day. And they, they know it. And I had an incident with one of the apps that I'm on where a friend liked someone's profile. And I had them message me and I was like, oh, hey, really sorry. Like a friend of mine liked your profile and that's why. And she was like, oh, does that mean I'm not in with chance? And old me would have been like, not even going to message you. I'm just going to ignore this. But I was like, yeah, really sorry. But, you're like the other side of the country and I'm just not in it for that kind of relationship, or like for that kind of dating someone that's like more than 2 hours away. That's a lot. So, and then that was the end of that, which was great. But no, me 4 years ago or more would have just ignored them completely. Or no, not dealing with that. I'm never going to see them, so it doesn't matter. I can't see their face. It's all right. But no, I think, do you know what? Grow the fuck up. Grow the fuck up and just say to someone, do you know what? Had a great time. Or, you know what? It was a nice time, but I just don't think that we're a match or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, and if they're a dick about it, well,
100%.
Block them. That's it.
Yeah, I kind of like it if they're a dick about it because you're like, oh, well, I definitely have dodged a bullet here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like confirmation.
Yeah. And then the people pleasers, when they're actually a nice person, like, no, don't be nice about it. That makes me feel bad. I think that it's spreading. It's too easy to be on an app. It's too easy to do everything by email, message, WhatsApp and whatever, and just leave everything on red and just walk away. And it's just spreading to everything. And I agree. I don't think it's healthy for either involved to be doing that. But I get why some people do, because they are anxious and they don't want to potentially invoke conflict or bad feelings or whatever. So I get it. Ghosting is a bit of a bitch, to be honest. But I get why some people do it and other people are just wankers. So, which probably sounds harsh for some people, but it's true. Some people it's a numbers game, isn't it? Can you give me a worst date scenario? Like, what's been one of the worst dates that you've been on? Because I haven't had a lot of people on that are doing the dating thing.
Oh, do you know, I think I'm quite lucky. I don't think I've had any really bad ones, but I do remember being in Hong Kong and going on a date with a guy that was a couple of years older. But like, he'd obviously used old photos.
No.
But like, when I met him, I was like, oh, you're just an old man. Oh God. And I think back then I was like, again, probably too people pleasing. I think I stayed for like a couple of drinks. But me now, I'd be like, I'd probably stay for one.
Yeah.
You know? I think it just, for me, there's no point putting a profile on an app if it's not representing who you are. What's the point? You're just setting yourself up for like, not meet someone's expectations kind of thing. So no, I've not had any really bad ones. I think when you are using the apps and you've just had a load of like average ones, in a way, they almost like compound and that can feel quite depressing. It's just like, oh, this is also average. This is fine, but nothing's great or exciting. So yeah, that can be a bit of a challenge sometimes.
With that, do you believe in the spark? Because that seems to be a something that's doing the rounds at the moment after a few like high-profile podcasts. Do you believe in the spark? Having a spark with somebody when you first meet them?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you?
100%. Yeah, you can feel it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a big believer in energies anyway, just in general.
Okay, so spark-wise, what I'm thinking is you go on a date with somebody, you proper feel like this, oh my gosh, I want to see them again, and real kind of like high from it, you know, that real kind of, wow, this person's amazing kind of thing. What I kind of picked up from the recent kind of narrative with the spark is that actually, if you're sparking with somebody in the beginning, the potential for long term isn't really there compared to someone that is kind of average in how they make you feel in the first date.
I mean, you've definitely got to be careful. That spark could be part of your attachment style playing out, or it could just be like lust. But I don't think that having that spark means it couldn't turn into something long term. I think it will reduce, obviously, over time. That's normal. But no, I'm a big believer in it.
And you had long-term relationships. How though? How do you have a long-term relationship with somebody and be like, I mean, did it end because you were moving to another country? Like, how does that work?
The long-term relationship I had in Sydney, we were talking about next potential moves because we're both from different countries. He was from Chile, obviously I'm from the UK, and neither of us had permanent visas for Australia. There was possibilities of getting it, but not concrete. And to be honest, I didn't want to stay in Australia long term anyway, because it's so far from everywhere else. I just wanted to be back connected with the rest of the world a bit more. And then to be fair, we probably had slightly different views there. And, you know, that's one of the issues that played into it. Being an expat or just meeting a partner from a different country, that can come with its issues for sure, because you've not got that common ground of like, oh, well, we'll both go back to the UK eventually, because one of you has to choose to not go back home. Yeah.
That's the thing. One of you has to choose not to go home. It's quite big.
Or you both kind of just choose to live in a new place together. So yeah, it is big. It's when you're like young and you move out to these places, you don't even think twice about it. But when you find yourself in those situations, it is big.
With that though, like, so, you know, you were dead set when you were younger on getting to London. And now you're just like, I feel like the next time I talk to our mutual friend, I'm like, oh, how's Laura doing?
Yeah.
And then she's going to be like, she's moved. She's not in Vancouver anymore. She's somewhere else, like Spain or wherever these places that take you. Have you actually experienced heartbreak yet?
In terms of moving countries and leaving behind a relationship?
just in general, like, you know, whether it is moving countries, whether it is like when you were younger, like, because it seems like you're very driven, and that's not as in a bad thing, but you're very driven about everything over a relationship, which I think is really fucking cool, because so many people are still in that mindset of like, have to be with another person, have to be with another person. So has it ever really set you up? I'm not going to say it right. I'm not going to get this out in a way that describes what I'm trying to get at in the right way. But you've been so driven with other aspects of your life. Have you felt heartbreak? Because it's not as important as everything else.
Yeah, 100%. I think you wouldn't be human, would you, if you hadn't felt heartbreak? I think in my to go back to it again, when I was like dating as an anxiously attached person, I probably made it worse for myself. I probably dramatized everything and put myself in positions that like created the heartbreak. But yeah, even dating and being in relationships as a more secure style and as a more mature person, 100%. I think you can have all these goals and ambitions and drives, but you can still feel that heartbreak from relationship or a certain situation. I think the other things help you work through it for sure.
Okay. Do you mind me asking about when you got your heart broken?
I mean, it's happened a few times as relationships end for sure. I think you're probably right. Like with age and certain goals I have and stuff, I'm more resilient to it. And I'm finding it, I know the ways to cope with it in an easier way. I do feel a lot stronger from my life journey and dating journey. But yeah, it's never nice.
It's never nice. Whether you're doing the heartbreaking,
no, it's not a joy.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I've known that. Like my last relationship, I broke up with them, and I still had a moment where I cried because you don't want to hurt that person.
100%. Yeah,
but it's, you know, you don't want to be a bad person, but sometimes you got to do the bad things to, you know, keep going, like, you know, move on and carry on and whatever. But it's like, it's not that I'm getting this vibe from you that you're like this like stone cold bitch, man, and you're like, not, you just, you know, rocking through the globe, dating all these people, having a great time, and leaving broken hearts in your wake. I guess because I am yet to be there, I find I'm actually finding it really like a struggle to visualize, or not visualize even, but kind of imagine what that's like to be in those kind of relationships, and then like work out, right, well, want to leave the country now, and, you know, we're not going back to the same place, so that's gotta, but also be resilient enough to get through it, but also not then go back on that decision and be like, no, we'll stay together.
My relationship in Sydney ended before I decided to make the move. So we were planning a few things in Sydney, but it was also hard because just logistically, like visas, as I mentioned before, both on different visas, the rules kept changing about whether they could become permanent or not, and things like that. So that's quite tricky. But once we'd broken up, I tried really hard not to do my usual thing and just quit my job, book flights, travel, move somewhere new. I was like, no, let's sit in this. Let's live here for a little bit. And I did for a couple of months, but I realized it wasn't the location I wanted to be in. It wasn't the job I wanted to be in. And I just felt my journey was done. And I left in a really peaceful way. But I was proud of my sort of hesitation to take my usual actions, because it feels great, doesn't it? Something shit's just happened, you go and book a flight and you go somewhere new, or you start planning a move, or you start applying for jobs and you get some interviews and everything feels very exciting. That feels good straight away, and I guess it's the instant gratification, so I avoided that. But it still led me overseas. I was planning on just taking some time out and chilling for a bit, but then I saw a job that I couldn't not apply for. So
is that the Globetrotters version of essentially where someone goes on a blocking rampage, where they start blocking that other person from all of their like social media and stuff? Like your old ways of doing it were like, fuck it, see you later, burn everything to the ground, laters, I'm going somewhere else. Is that, I feel like that's like a traveler's version of blocking everybody, like blocking that person from social media.
I guess it is. Yeah.
Like, see you later, I'm not in this country anymore, don't have to deal with you. Sorry,
quite
different
extreme,
time zone. Yeah. Is it extreme? Is it really extreme? I suppose it is extreme. To non-travellers, I suppose doing that does sound pretty extreme.
And I think for how much I'm moving, I do, every time I do it, I'm so excited. But then every time I have to like start again, find an apartment, open a bank account, make new friends, like get familiar with my new job. I'm like, why have I done this to myself again? And then, after the first few months, you're like, oh yeah, that was all good. That's all done. But no, it's a big shift. It's not like we're backpacking when you sort of move countries. It's a big old move. Like it's a lot of work. It's definitely where I've thrived.
I just can't let go of this whole kind of blocking on social media. Your version is to literally move to another country. I think it's brilliant. I don't encourage it, obviously, because you're trying to move away from that, but I think that's wild.
Yeah, I think like I have such a joy of doing it. It's something I've loved. And it's also, my career's taken me there as well. So there's a combination of things. Like I've only moved for new opportunities as well. It's not like I've just said, oh, I want to go live in Vancouver and I'll sort a job when I get there. I had an amazing opportunity that I couldn't turn down.
Yeah. And now you're in Vancouver where it's cold, I imagine. Right now,
it's cold, but it's very beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet it is. Slightly envious on that front, to be fair. Okay, so you're in Vancouver. You are, as you said, 37. What we all tend to forget, and I have to remind myself of this, is that a long time ago, when all these key moments in life that you're supposed to achieve was because we all died at the age of 40. Like, who saw past middle age?
Yeah, that's true.
But it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, wow, you hit 21, let's celebrate.
Yeah.
And wow, you're married and have kids is because you had to, otherwise you're kind of popping your clogs by 40, 45 and that's your lot. So
yeah.
And I know that we are moving out of that, but there are those traces, especially because of the older generation as well, those traces, those echoes of having to have achieved all this by now. But we're seeing so many more people that are just like, nah, fuck that. I'm on my own timeline. But you're 37. What's it like? Because I found this with dating, that there's a lot more navigating those that are divorcing, have children. Is that like something that plays on your mind when you are looking to date?
Yeah, I don't really have any issues with dating someone who is divorced at all. I think children, I've not really come across those situations yet. But no, I'm so open. Everyone's been on a different journey, haven't they? And it's always great to learn more about someone else's life and what they've done. Children would be like something to consider, I guess, just because it would affect maybe like your weekends. And as someone who's had complete freedom with what I want to do with my time, that could be something to consider. But I do quite often end up meeting or dating guys that are a little bit younger than me. I don't know why. It just in recent years has started to happen.
Has your taste has changed?
I wouldn't say it's changed. I think I've usually dated around similar age to me. I've never really dated older guys. But yeah, recently, maybe, I'm not talking loads younger, but like...
We're not going to call you a cougar.
No. Well, you can if you want. Maybe like 3 to 5 years younger, something like that. And And maybe that is because I'm being drawn to people with no commitment. I don't know. In terms of like having children or commitments in their personal life, I'm not sure. The way I view myself is that I don't have any barriers and I'm very open to different types of people.
Yeah, because there was a recent thing, another thing that kind of came out of something I was listening to, which was the whole like relationship-shipping and relation shopping, and how most of us actually do go around relation
I've
shopping.
not heard that.
Yeah, fucking loved it when I heard it. But basically, we all kind of, you know, a lot of us go around, especially on dating apps, because it's so easy to do it on dating apps, with this kind of shopping list of what we want and what we don't want. So we walk into it going, I want someone that is within a certain kind of financial bracket, that lives in a certain area, that is maybe I only want guys that are tall, or that have never been divorced, or don't have children, or have a certain job, or come from a certain family, play certain sports. Like you start to zero in on all your shopping list, and you're really kind of discounting a whole bunch of people that could be available for you because you're shopping rather than shipping. And I thought that was really interesting, because one of the things that they had said was about like, some people going, oh, I don't want to be with someone that has divorced parents, because then they come from a broken home. And then they're and then they're probably not going to be that great in relationships either. And I was like, that is really fucking judgmental.
Oh, that's so brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't say I've ever done it myself, where I've gone, oh, no, thanks. But it sounds like you've never really done that, though. You've never kind of had this shopping list for people.
I was laughing before because when you said about the height, I remember Bumble used to have a height filter for free, because I never pay for the apps.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, amazing. And I did set it to 6 foot and above. And then they took it away. And I was absolutely gutted. But yeah, some of my friends thought I was ridiculous for setting it at 6 foot. But, you know, I think that's really interesting, the shopping versus shipping. It sounds like I don't, but I think subconsciously I probably am. I think there'll be certain things that I don't find attractive, and I'm probably doing it via that. Yeah, probably shopping a little bit.
I think, to be honest, I think we all are. We all have like our unconscious biases when it comes to when we look at other people. At the end of the day, these apps are set up like that. You see a picture and you're like, nope. The other day, there was a picture of this woman.
That's all you've got on the app, isn't it?
And, you know, the other day I had this picture of this woman that came up, and she was essentially morbidly obese, holding a can of, I think it was Foster's, and talking about how, but holding a can of Foster's and talking about how she doesn't want someone who's into mind games, wants good cuddles, wants good sex. However, she had no proper grammar. And there, like that, just all these things combined. And I was just like, absolutely not.
On the apps, you have to shop, like you're saying. That's all you've got. There's nothing else to go off. Whereas in real life, we probably do ship. You can, because you've got those energies, those connections. You can fall in love with someone's personality in real life, but you can't via your phone on a screen. Yeah. So I think it's very justified to be shopping when you're online dating.
Yeah. And for me, I think I've experienced this, and I imagine that you have too, is where someone looks absolutely stunning and then they open their mouth and it turns out they're quite the douchebag. And then all of a sudden they become really ugly.
Yeah. And then the other way around as well. 100%.
Yeah. And it's incredible how personality, which you can't get really from an app, it's incredible how much that can make a difference.
And even body language and mannerisms, they can be highly attractive.
Yeah. So if we were saying relationship shopping, we've already found out that you like a guy that's tall.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
What other attributes are we looking at here?
I think I want someone who's got a similar outlook as me, so open to travel and trying different experiences, doesn't have to be living in different places, but open to it. And I find ambition really attractive. So someone who's either done a lot for themselves or worked hard in their career, whatever that is, but like laziness is a big no-no. Yeah, I just think all those things are very attractive if I'm shopping. But then obviously even that you can't really tell through apps when you're using those. So yeah, when I'm using the apps, you just have to be really shallow, don't you? And just go off like the stats and the photos and that's it really.
Just, it's like a bloody
card,
like Pokemon cards or something, and you just no. All right.
Yeah, it is the adult version.
Adult version of Pokemon cards, and most people are losers.
Yeah.
In more ways than one.
Yeah.
It's bad, but it's true.
It's real bad.
It's real bad. With that though, how do you find your dates? Is it purely on apps? Because I don't find they really work for me. But because you move around and stuff, are they like the best place for you to do it?
Not really. I'm probably the same. I find them a really useful tool. Like, for example, when you do move somewhere new and you don't know anyone, I've actually in Sydney, and it's happened here as well, I've made good friends from going on the apps. And just being really upfront, being like, listen, I'm new here and I'm not necessarily looking to date, I'm just looking to connect with people. I think that's a real good gift really that the apps can bring. Other than that, not really. Like the odd date or like something casual. I occasionally meet people in real life, like at a party or something. What I have found in Vancouver, which has not happened to me in other places I've lived, is that I've been approached quite a lot on the street and been asked for my number and stuff, which is highly, highly flattering. And I find that attractive as well. It kind of goes back to me what I was saying before. Most of those guys have been American, actually. I don't know if that's sort of personality trait of like that particular country, whatever. But I find that bring that back, bring more of that. That should happen more, like less apps, more in person.
I love that. Bring that back. Bring that back.
Yeah.
Because let's face it.
That must have been what happened in the 90s, right?
I imagine so. So what we're saying is guys, take a leaf out of an American Men book and 10 seconds of courage. You see an attractive woman, go over, say hey.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
No, I'm actually quite a shy person.
Yeah.
So I'm a complete hypocrite.
Yeah.
I'd love to. I actually have a friend here who's pushed herself to, another English girl, who's pushed herself to do that. And she's done it twice. And I'm like, that is my goal. I would love to at some point give it a good go. But yeah, why not? You're right. 10 seconds of pain. And the worst you're going to get is a no.
Yeah. The worst is I'm married. No thanks. Busy. Washing my hair. Like how much...
Yeah.
Really, how much does it actually bruise your ego to kind of like have a knockback? You're never going to see them again. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
All
agreed.
Right. There we go. 2024 goal for Laura. You've got to like approach some attractive
putting it down
guys.
on my list.
Yeah, that's going to be a 2024 goal. I want to hear about
Sounds
it.
Sounds good. Okay, I'll keep you updated.
Oh my god, yes, because honestly, that would be amazing. Like by the end of January already, you're like, yep, done it. Coffee shop. It was amazing. He had a husband.
It would be very, classic. It would be very empowering.
Yeah, now I feel like I want to do it. Damn it, Laura. Jesus.
Husband or no husband?
I'm going to look for women and just be like, do you know what? Even if I don't think my gaydar's shit anyway, but I'd just be like, okay, hi, how are you doing? Okay, no worries. But that flannel looks nice on you and gives you gay vibes. So, and then walk away and hope I never see them
there's
again.
so much flannel here. You'd love it.
I imagine there is. Like, proper lumberjacks and lumberjills walking around that place. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
I love that. And so,
absolutely.
How long have you been in Vancouver?
I'm actually quite new to Vancouver. I got here in February.
Oh, wow. Okay. So probably got a couple of years to go.
Yeah. I hope so, yeah.
That's cool. Absolutely. You need to be getting out there, hitting up on some people in coffee shops and gyms. I don't really know. Is a gym a thing?
You see, I don't help myself.
Okay.
Like the exercise class I go to is like hot Pilates yoga.
Oof.
It's a dark room. The music's really loud. It's 99% women.
Yeah.
But I love it.
That actually sounds really nice, just to be in a hot room, lay down and just let everybody else do the work. But I find that what's really interesting is a lot of people actually it's not that I'm looking for anything controversial, but what I find is a lot of people can sometimes like hold back because they might have something that's controversial. And I find it really interesting when actually it's not. I had someone on right at the very beginning who, for some reason, actually it turned out was quite divisive about tolerating somebody and how if you can't tolerate being around them for a long time, then actually that's a no-go. And then another person I loved this quote about sitting in front of the TV watching Coronation Street and never actually asking whether you're happy. And it really got people...
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really kind of like triggered something in people. Even though I think...
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, even though it's actually quite, not passive, but you could let those comments just walk by and you wouldn't even think about it. But these things really just kind of like the tolerating somebody and do you even ask yourself whether you're happy, have been quite controversial for people. Are these things that, because you seem so open to these things and, you again, you're doing the work and stuff, is there anything to you that is controversial? Because it feels like with the awareness and stuff that there can't really be anything that is controversial for you.
I mean, I feel like as a sort of like older millennial, the younger generation, Gen Z, are definitely shifting things and the way they date and different types of relationships going on now. I don't even fully know exactly what's going on. I read things and see things, but they're definitely breaking down boundaries. And I wouldn't say they're controversial for me, but I'm not playing into them. That made me realize I'm a older generation in terms of dating. Like essentially I am looking for monogamy. So 100% not controversial. And I love what they're doing. I love that they're breaking molds and boundaries and challenging the norms. It makes you realize in some elements I'm quite conventional.
Do you think monogamy is conventional, or it's just the way that people play out monogamy?
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually. Monogamy's got the attachments of like safety and routine and everything like that. It doesn't have to be, does it? There's lots of different ways it can look. And I guess that's when you find the right partner. Yours can look however it wants to. Yeah,
because the connotation, I guess, with monogamy for some people is like, oh God, monogamy is so boring. It's like, why is it boring? It's not boring. It doesn't have to be boring. Yes, if we go back to say like Brand's episode, conversation number 2, and it's like, you sat there watching Coronation Street, not asking whether you're happy. Of course, monogamy is fucking shit. But do you know what I mean? Like, of course it's going to be shit. You're just sitting there like doing the same thing over and over and over again, never experiencing anything, never growing. But I think monogamy maybe gets a bad rap. And there's this fear that if you're not because of the younger generation who are breaking barriers and shedding these institutionalized ways. But also don't forget that these aren't actually, monogamy isn't because I see a lot of things where it's like ethical non-monogamy and polyamory, and I'm like, I'm not into it. I'm not saying that I want to sit there watching Coronation Street every night, but I just want that one person. I don't have, to be honest, I don't have the bandwidth for more than one person. I couldn't cope. But it's true though, right? Like, I think monogamy's kind of got a bad
I'm
rep.
so aligned. I'm the same. I would not have the energy. And I'm very like all or nothing as well. I'm either like not fussed about someone or I'm like so into them. So for me, it just doesn't sit with how I treat relationships. Yeah, I'm completely the same as you.
Yeah, it just, I get very like, because of, like, there'll be this a way of thinking, and you're like, but that other way isn't bad. It's just the way it's just the things that you've put attached to it. These, divorce, as Egg had said about why, all of a sudden it was very weird because people were congratulating her on getting divorced. But then the attachment to divorce, not that long ago was shame, and the woman was shamed for being divorced and the talk of the town. And so people are finding new ways, and it's really odd. So, yeah, okay. So not, there's nothing controversial there. It's interesting when you don't think it's controversial and then people are like, whoa, what are you saying right now?
Yeah, because to me that is not in the slightest controversial.
Yeah. And so for you, monogamy is your way forward, the way you want to do things, non-ethical monogamy, polyamory, all that kind of stuff. It just doesn't, for you, you're like, nah, not for me, pal.
No, not for me.
I love that, straight out no. This harks back to the very beginning of the conversation.
It's just like, and like when I first started seeing those words on the apps, like, and you like start Googling it, and I just thought, oh God, no, I do not have the energy for this. Oh God, no.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. It's, I get it, and I applaud everybody for really pushing those boundaries and stuff, but also at the same time understanding that actually I'm good. Thanks.
100%.
Yeah, I don't need to share diaries with multiple other people to make sure that we're not, like overlapping on some date night. So for you then, you're not actively trying to find someone to settle down with. You're open to how it goes and those experiences, because everything is giving you those experiences, and they can be great. Like even, ultimately bad ones, they'll, you can still acknowledge that there was good times. It's something that I ask everybody because I think it's absolutely fascinating. Have you been in love? And if you have, are you able to actually put words to what it feels like?
Yeah, I've definitely been in love a couple of times. I think the feeling is you've got the nice balance of the excitement of being with someone, but you've also got complete grounding and safety, and without sounding cheesy, like a best friend as well.
Yeah.
It's that, like, it's ticking lots of different boxes, and you build a world with that person.
Does it feel the same every time?
You've got your own little private world. No, I think, and my gaps have probably been quite big, so quite different ages. And I imagine when it next happens again, it'll feel quite different.
Do you think that comes with age? Because of you're a different person, you've experienced more as you get older. Love doesn't have to feel, you don't have to find yourself going, oh, I didn't feel like this with that person. So is it? You understand that it's going to be different every time.
Yeah, you're totally right. You've been on a journey, you've changed, you've grown. Everything's going to feel different, but kind of in the positive direction. I've actually not had any issues with getting older. I've actually enjoyed getting older. I think you're so much more secure in who you are. And I think dating becomes easier because, like we were saying before, you can be more honest, not put up with any bullshit. It's a good journey to be on.
It's interesting. I think one thing that I have learned from a lot of people is maybe it's, for some people, it can be difficult to describe that feeling, but there seems to be a general theme of like that kind of safety and yeah, like safety seems to be a big thing for people. But I can understand why, especially if you've been doing the work. You want to feel like your inner world is safe with that person. Otherwise, why the fuck are you with them?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm going to round it up. I was going to drop this for 2024, but actually I've been told that I shouldn't, and I'll be in trouble if I don't. I've been asking all the questions. Is there a question that you would like to ask me?
Yeah, definitely. Let me have a think.
Just one day someone's going to go, no, I'm all right, thanks. And I'll be like, great.
What would you say? So have you been dating this year or not in 23?
I did some speed dating.
Okay. Because I was going to ask you, and it might not be the right question, what has been your highlight in dating? Or let's say, what has your learning been in just relationships in 2023?
Yeah, okay. So I went speed dating. That happened. Otherwise, I haven't, because it's been really difficult, like using apps and finding places to go when you're not a drinker. So yeah, it's quite difficult when you don't drink. And a lot of people on apps and stuff like, oh, I love going to the pub and I love going out. And I'm like, oh, don't. That's awkward. What I learned, I essentially learned from speed dating that I'm not the same person that I was 10 years ago, where I'm like, why don't you like me? Even if I don't like you, I'm like, why don't you like me? Your approval and why, what is it about me you don't like? Whereas as I actually walked in there and I was like, it's not that I don't care in that kind of blasé knobhead way, but as in it's okay. Like if someone doesn't like me, because my world doesn't exist based on how that person feels about me, because I don't know them. Not really. We spent 4 minutes
You're not
together.
looking for approval.
Yeah. And it's such a freeing thing to it's such a freeing thing to like just realize that, oh, actually, I don't care. We don't get on. So what? Move on. There's plenty more people. So that actually was really nice to discover, but I wouldn't have discovered that had I not gone and done the speed dating. But that's kind of all I've done. The problem with me is that I am not very good at knowing when someone's into me. And I'm also not very good at knowing when I'm into someone else. So that awareness for me is still to be worked on. So yeah, unfortunately, that's going to have to be another question for next year, 2024, because hopefully I will find ways to not try and rely on apps, because that's not working for me. I need a connection. I need that in-person energy, and apps just don't provide that. I'm not saying apps don't work, because they do. I've had a friend get married from meeting her wife on an app. The greatest thing to come out of the speed dating and dating was to know that actually I'm not the same person I was, and them not liking me isn't the end of the world, which was lovely. It was great. That's what 4 years of therapy does for you. And reading that book, Attachment.
Worth it.
So good.
So good.
Yeah.
That, and then How to Do the Work with Nicola Perla. Yeah. Great little combo there.
I tell you what, until you said her name, I probably would have butchered it. I absolutely would have butchered that name.
No, I might have done. We'll see. But her Instagram is also really good. Her posts are really, really powerful.
Yeah, and they're not kind of self-help one and done, which I think people are over that now. That one and done self-help thing. It's more of a journey. Like, let's keep 100%. Thinking and keep going back. So,
never-ending journey. Yeah.
All right, we'll add that to some recommendations, because I think that's a really good shout. But otherwise, Laura, thank you so much. It's been really interesting to actually chat attachment styles, because we haven't done that yet, and I think it's really interesting for people to think about that. It's been awesome. Yeah, thank you very 100%. Much.
My pleasure.